Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Aeons. Welcome to Strange Aeons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Hello.
That makes me Kelly. Hey guys, I got something I want to talk about. As you're listening to this, a couple of weeks ago, there was an interview with Joss Whedon where he finally broke his silence.
Oh my God.
And gave his side
Oh my
of the story. You have thoughts on this, Vanessa?
Oh, I fucking read it.
What did you think?
Look, that I think it's hilarious because it's supposed to be this moment where it's like, this is his side of the story. And I've never seen a man just hang himself with his own rope so gloriously. But the problem is, if people read it and just assume that whatever he's saying is true, there are all these people on Facebook who are like, yeah, but Gal Gadot's English wasn't very good. And so she didn't even understand what he's saying. I was like, so you're just going to assume that because he said this out loud with his mouth, that that's true and right in any way. So I don't love that people are taking him literally. But what I do enjoy is listening to him talk about, oh, well, I was really abused by my family. And I just realized that, like, just now, even though I grew up super, super rich. And I love my brother enough that I have hired him multiple times to work with me on projects. And this thing was really, really awful, even though it's like, if you just look at his actions, it makes no sense with what he's saying. And he sounds so fucking entitled and awful. Anyways, I hate him. I hate him so much.
So you're saying this did not help your opinion of him?
No, it definitely made me like just hate him a bit more. He's such a milady. He's like, oh, well, I see myself as Puck from Shakespeare. I mean, I'm really just the playful. Like, fuck off.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here then.
All right.
What could he have said to make you change your mind about him?
I'm sorry, I fucked up.
Would that really have done anything?
No, there's nothing he can say right now that is going to somehow make everything he's done for over 20 years magically go away. He's a bad person. He shouldn't be in powerful positions. He shouldn't be producing. He shouldn't be in charge of other people's careers. And he should be a writer. That's what he is, right? He's a writer. Just go write. You can't hurt people as much when you're writing.
I like that you are so passionate about this because it makes me want to ask these kind of questions. And I've said this before. Vanessa, I love you. Eric, I love you. I think you are two of the nicest people on the planet. I guarantee, Vanessa, there are people who fucking hate you for good reason. Yeah. And Eric, you as well, right? Yeah. Because there are people who think I am the nicest person on the planet, and I know at least one person who thinks I'm the devil.
Yeah.
And they're both right based on the interactions they had with me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because we can be the nicest people on the planet, and we can be real pricks too. We are all human. When we put another human on a pedestal, should we be surprised that it turns out they are also just human?
Well, that's the question, because as somebody who dated a sociopath for 2 years, watching somebody, not all people are good, and not all people should be given the space to quote unquote be human when they are inhuman. They're not empathetic, they're not sympathetic, they're not able to treat people with kindness. They don't have it in them. And I feel like he is that. The more I look at it, the more I see it, the more stories I hear. I mean, it's not one incident. It's not one girlfriend that he got really weird with. It's like tons and tons of people across all positions, all levels, all kinds of relationships that he's been cruel and strange and leery and horrible with. I don't think it's just him being human. I think there's another deeper question here.
I think that no apology would work from him. And so if I'm just thinking of myself, I'm like, well, if no apology would work, I would not apologize.
Yeah.
But I would also, I think, take myself out of the picture.
Yes.
I don't see, this is him still being the most human he is instead of apologizing, he's making excuses, and he feels strongly enough about it that he's like, I gotta put my excuses on public record too, instead of just fading away.
Well,
I assume he needs some kind of attention, and he
Yes.
wants to continue working, so he's got to do something.
The thing I think when you fucked up pretty bad and consistently, especially like he has, like you mentioned, there are people that hate me. I'm sure there are plenty that do. If I feel I've wronged somebody, I will go to them and talk to them directly
yeah.
if I can, if they'll let me. But they may not, and that's fine. There's nothing I can do about that. If he really wanted to make amends and really gave a shit, he would not have recorded anything. He wouldn't even tweet. He'd go, if they'd see him, and he'd go to Charisma Carpenter. He'd go to, and he'd say, this was horrible. I'm sorry. I understand if you never forgive me, but I wanted to approach you directly and let you know, and then leave. Don't tweet that's where you were. Don't make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Make actual attempts at amends for what you've done, not so everybody sees it and goes, oh, look, he's so much nicer now, but because you actually want to make amends.
Sure.
I love that.
And I don't think he has that in him.
I agree with everything there. I also agree with everything I've said. I think that, I had a Facebook rant last 2 episodes ago where I was talking about it turns us all into narcissists. If you are now of our age, you have been turned into the biggest narcissist in the world, because that's what we are pumping out right now with social media and stuff like that. So I think that there has to be a way to separate. I feel, here's the thing. I don't care really about Joss Whedon one way or the other.
Sure.
I think he's a good writer.
Mhm.
But I am also able to separate the artist from the artist, if that makes sense.
The artist from the art?
The artist from the artist, because we are not in public who we really are.
Sure.
We are different people as soon as we are around another person. Even. And, I've gotten at least much better about, just because I like somebody's art, I used to be like, oh my God, I love this guy. Well, I have 100% of the time been disappointed when I have done that. And so I just don't do that anymore.
Right.
But I think that, if we really want to do anything, we got to stop this idea of this interview with him is something that everybody is reading. Nobody should have read it or commented on it or anything. And that could have sent the message to Joss about what we feel should be done with him. He should be sent out to the cornfield and, banished. But instead, now he's got everybody fighting over him
Platform.
again.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what?
I don't care what you say about me, just say something.
Yeah. It's just it will continue the cycle. And as you say, he's got acolytes and everything. There's going to be people who hate him, but there's going to be people who defend him now. And now I feel like with that message being said, he'll eventually end up working again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Probably. And it sucks too, because it feels like the incels have come out to rally around him. And I've just seen a lot of defense of him on production, like online social production, film related boards of other people who are working in production who are like, yeah, no, I can relate to that. Like that guy, I totally can see myself in him. And maybe she was mistaken. Maybe they were confused. Maybe somebody misread this thing. And we did give him a voice when we really shouldn't have, but there was no way he was going to say no. There's no way. That guy is so like, yes, let me talk at any given moment and tell you the truth. Except for I have to get up and go to the bathroom every time you ask me a hard question and then come up with an answer and come back. That happens 3 times, literally 3 times in this interview.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I will say also, I mean, we are in a world now where the slightest thing is the biggest thing. Yeah. And, I don't know anything about Ray Fisher, except what I have seen on Justice League. And he is the worst actor in that movie. And if Gal Gadot is acting rings around you, you are not a good actor. So, I've seen both versions of it. Both versions, I thought he was a very bad actor. But if your mindset is, I'm black and you must be racist for not liking me, instead of, I'm not a very good actor. Maybe that's why the director didn't like me. We get things twisted sometimes.
Yeah, I can see from his perspective that is a really difficult line to see clearly. And the spot I kind of land on where I think that it was a bit of a vengeful action was in that the story makes way less sense by cutting the parts that they cut. Sure, like recast him or, cut him.
Can you imagine him recasting his only black actor?
I know.
That would absolutely kill everything. Now, of course, he's killed everything anyway. But
he killed everything. I mean, if he reshot as much as he reshot at the time, nobody knew. Nobody understood when they were actually in production. I don't know that it would have been as big of a splash if he had recast Ray at that point.
Well, it depends too. I mean, if he recast him with Brad Pitt, yeah, there'd be a problem. But if you recast him with Michael B. Jordan, a lot of people go, you know what? That was a really fucking good move. Right. Michael B. Jordan's a really good actor.
How much of Back to the Future did they reshoot? When they realized they'd made a mistake.
Eric Stoltz was a terrible choice.
Yeah, I think that he instead, was acting inappropriately on set towards this actor and other actors, and it seems like multiple people. And by the way, Gal Gadot did not come to the press and say, he was awful to me the whole time. It was a bunch of people in the crew who were telling them this. So it's not like she was like trying to get the spotlight. She really doesn't seem to have wanted it. But like it's fine. But story-wise, it just doesn't make nearly as much sense by cutting the bits they cut and by shooting and putting in the things he did. It just, everything felt personal in a weird way.
I guess. I mean, I'm also, this doesn't make me popular, but I am also of the mind that if Hollywood is awful, and we are aware that it is awful, in fact, they have been making movies about Hollywood being awful for years, since the beginning.
Sure.
Why does everybody want to work there?
To be famous.
Exactly.
Money.
So it's kind of on you. You know what you're getting into, don't you?
Well, tell me the giant industry that makes billions of dollars that's populated by wonderful people. They don't exist. The Wall Street.
Podcasting.
It might seem awful.
Billions of dollars. I mean, the bank industry is full of fucking assholes.
Yeah,
the power industry is full of fucking assholes. It's just that Hollywood is in your face. They have to show you their people. So you have to see all of them. Everybody talks about them. There's 50 magazines published about them. There's 400 blog spots. There's not Entertainment Weekly. This is what the CEO of Bank of America was doing this weekend. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Is that whenever you get to a place you're dealing with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, you're going to have a lot of people that are assholes, and you're going to have a lot of people that let them be assholes because they want to get part of that 100 million. And if you piss off the CEO of whatever company you work for, you're not going to get promoted. So, I mean, it's just that Hollywood's in our face and we see that.
I guess that's my point, is that there's not a lot of people, like, God, I had to take this acting job. There's, when I got out of high school, it wasn't like, Kelly, you can be an actor or you can dig ditches. And I was like, well, I know that Hollywood is awful, so I'm going to dig ditches because it's less awful.
I think exactly. That's right. Like, so you can't tell somebody who's passionate about acting or filming or directing or writing and loves doing it and sees themselves as being a good person and wants to go to Hollywood and say, well, you really shot yourself in the foot though, because Hollywood sucks and is full of horrible people. Yeah. You can't tell people that they aren't going to follow their passions just because it's a bad industry. Like, I mean, I was scared of entering, the film industry plenty of times. I was given plenty of warning. I still did it. And I've had some shitty ass experiences, some weird fucking crap along the way. But at the same time, I love what I do.
I think that you're making my point.
It. She walked down the street with her, and her skirt was too short.
I'm not saying that at all.
No, I know.
Although I saw that skirt, and man, she was asking.
No, no.
But I am saying that, unfortunately, it is part of the job. Is you're going to deal with when you get into high stakes companies, you're going to deal with assholes.
I think the thing that we're starting to discover, because that has been the narrative for a long time. And I think with the Me Too thing, what the question came up was, but do we? Like, Why?
Do we have to have
Do we
that?
have to have that? Do we have to have people be assholes and belittle and bubble? Like, does it have to exist? Because it doesn't help the films get made. It doesn't make a better product. It doesn't, treat people better. It doesn't get things done. That's been the myth, but that's not the truth.
No. But what happens is you don't like it. There's literally 1 million people who want your job,
I know.
who will deal with this
Sure.
shit.
I
And
know.
that's the
horrible part for sure.
But it is the reality, unfortunately. All I'm saying is, can't we deal with reality on reality's terms? It is the reality. So what use in fighting it?
So just, if that's the way it is, so screw it, just let it be that way. Or, I mean, because that's not how we change our world. I mean, we could still be living in huts and eating corn.
We've made a lot of progress in the last couple years.
Because that's what it's been. So why not just stay the same? I mean,
Sure, but you're talking about a society changing its technology, evolving. We're talking about Hollywood, which I think is a singular kind of industry. It can't be compared to others because it is nothing like the others.
So big,
and you can say that we've made a lot of progress. Have we?
I think we have.
I don't think we have at all.
To a certain extent. I mean, I know, for example, right, like all those what was the union thing? So, but the actual production crews were
the IATSE one, or the
one that just happened, where they were like, okay, cool. So we're working way too many hours. We're not getting a big enough break, all these things. And, made a really big splash about it and, shared their personal stories of how dangerous sets are becoming. And that has had a giant shift now. So I think there's progress. It might not be all the progress that we want. Like, you're still going to have, producers making actresses sleep with them so they can promise them roles.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That power shit
is still going to happen. But I think on the actual industry level, on the way that things function in a clearer manner, I think we can make that better and safer and push for a better world to exist in, to work in.
I'd rather, I mean, I'm not, if knock on wood, I get to direct another film again. I'm not going to go, well, directors are just assholes and yell and scream at their actors to get the performance. So that's what I need to do, because that's what Alfred Hitchcock did or Stanley Kubrick did. It's like, I don't function that way.
Right.
So I'm not going to do it, just because that seems to be one of the standards of the greats, is to attack actors to try to get a performance no matter what. So I think it's worth trying to have any place you can have the control to try to make it better. Why not try to make it better? If there's a producer out there who's got $400 million to spend on movies and he decides, you know what, I'm not going to hire any of these pricks. Good. Let's see what you can do that now and not face the wrath of people. Oh, you're just a wanker. You're afraid to hire somebody that might be scary just because they're the best director around. It's like, no, I'm going to hire the second best director around because the best director's a dick.
I think the last 3 directors who won Academy Awards were all like new up and coming directors who, or not up and coming, but little seen directors who are actually fun to work with, who are good human beings.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that I like the hope in your voice, Vanessa. I think I'm a little more cynical than you. I would even say that the strike and everything we got out of that is Hollywood propaganda to make us feel like there's progress, because up high where it matters, I don't think there's any difference from what's been going on for the last 100 years.
But the people who have to work the bottom levels, they're going to be given more breaks. They're going to be, it's not huge. It doesn't affect the higher level stuff, but affects the day-to-day stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Like, every little thing helps. And that's going to affect way more people than just the actors, because there are way more crew members than there are people who are starring in front of the camera.
Yeah. All right. Good talk, you guys.
Now my stomach hurts. I'm so.
Jeez. I started watching a show I don't think you guys are hip to. I mean, you know about it, but I don't think Eric, I think you just tried watching it and didn't like it. Vanessa, I don't think you care at all. And I came to it late, but man, I fucking love it. It is called Ozark.
actually do like it. Started watching it, and then, sometimes they just sort of go in the background. You forget you're watching it. And like, I think it was earlier this week, Dina's like, started watching Ozark, didn't we? Why didn't we finish? I was like, we should go back.
The 4th season just dropped. Well, I hate that they're doing this. The first half of the 4th season just dropped, so they're going to drop the other 7 episodes at some other time. But man, I don't know why I love this show so much, because all it does is ramp up my anxiety. I hate seeing a husband and wife staying together who are actively trying to destroy each other.
Yeah.
But they're staying together for the business, and they're backstabbing each other, all of this horrible shit. And then you're just like, every episode, they dig themselves deeper into this hole, and they get out of it by digging themselves deeper into a different hole. And it's like, oh God, nobody can survive this, right? Everyone has to die at the end of this.
Yeah, I have to admit, I started watching Ozark a couple years ago, and I was like, this is torture. I am taking myself out. And just started watching Succession. Same thing. Was like, you know what? I don't know why I'm sitting here. This is not worth my emotional energy.
You don't want to watch asshole billionaires?
I just don't. Even if they're all very good actors. It's not fun.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm watching.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of things that are really fucked up, I watched Cheer season 2, or almost all of Cheer season 2.
I have not seen the show.
It's about cheerleaders and a cheerleading
like competitive
competition.
cheerleading.
Yeah,
I thought you were saying Cheers, and I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I loved that in 1982 as well. Tell me when you get to the 11th season.
Yeah, no, not the sitcom. So this is the documentary following. Season 1 was following a team that was trying to make it to the nationals and trying to win the championship, and in the end did, and it was great, and everyone fell in love with these different people who starred in the show. And I didn't realize that then between season 1 and season 2, one of the main people who's seen, one of the cheerleaders, was found out to have been molesting and stalking young boys.
This is a real.
Yeah. So they then had to, because it's season 2, they have to address it immediately. So it's in the first couple minutes. And I was like, what? And then this person, because, this has already happened, they've already filmed all this stuff. He's in tons of the footage.
Oh, uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then they had to do a whole episode explaining what happened and like why it's actually serious and why it's not just a few text messages that went out to young boys, because he was the most beloved person on that show. He was the one who was cheering on the sidelines, even when he wasn't like put into the main pyramid or whatever the fuck was going on. Like he had so much heart and so much energy. And he was the real soul of the show. So to then find out that he was doing not just bad things, but really bad things, and for a while, and was continuing to try to do those things from like prison, like via, phones he was using. So that's been fun. That's what I have been watching.
Neat.
Yeah.
Wow, that falls into my whole thing of do not put humans on a pedestal.
No.
Humans are generally awful.
Well, it sucks too, because you're watching all these people who in season 1 were just kids, right? They're just nobody. They're just kids who are like in this community college or whatever, not a good school, but has a great cheer team, just trying to be, hold on to that one little piece of light before they graduate and then have to figure out what to do with their lives. And it's got a lot of sweetness to it. And then season 2, they are all mega famous now. So they're like doing live streams, and they're doing like, just
Jesus.
What are those ones where you can pay for somebody to tell you happy birthday?
Oh, yeah. Cameo.
Yeah, they're doing like cameos while they're getting their nails done, and they're getting all these photo shoots and commercials and being flown around. And you're like, oh no, these human beings are now awful.
I guess I missed all this. Are they famous? Is this a big deal?
Yeah, the first one was a giant hit.
Huge hit.
Okay.
They were on all the talk shows. Like Ellen had them on. They the guy who ended up is now in jail. He was on the red carpet for the Oscars.
Oh,
he was sent by Ellen to go and like interview people. So it was a big deal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oops.
I am out of the loop.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah.
Did I talk about Zombieland 2?
I don't.
I don't think I
Think
did.
I don't know, maybe 10 years ago.
No, we just watched it. No, that's
Okay.
Zombieland. Zombieland 2 was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, how was it? I mean, I totally was
we-
like, Zombieland 2. I guess I'm not going to see this.
Well, Dina was like, well, she wanted to watch the first one and then watch the second one. I was like, okay. First one, still damn good.
Yeah.
Holds up, a lot of fun. Zombieland 2 is not great. I think I did talk about this. But,
Edit all of this out. What
Yeah,
else do you have to talk about?
well, I finished watching Archive 81,
Oh,
which,
okay.
I am almost done.
cool.
I have
Did
not yet
you-
started.
Satisfying?
Yeah, I liked it.
Second season?
I believe so. Yeah, it sure looks like it needs one. Oh yeah, no, scratch that. There will definitely be a second season. I have one weird problem with it, and it's I don't know how old the writers are. The use of "fuck" as just a general adjective or adverb or
Mhm.
an is weird, and what makes it weird in this is they say it a lot, which is fine, but then they try to use it as an emphatic statement as well.
Mm.
And your last 12 sentences have included the word. When you get to your denouement of attacking them and you use that word, there's no power anymore.
Yeah.
It's gone. So it's just like you swearing well, because it has power when used well and has no power when used all the time.
I wonder, I'd like to see the script
Mm-hmm.
and see if that word was actually in every time they used it, or if the
Could be.
actor was just, emphasizing something with it, and then they
Mhm.
get to the part where it's used, and the
'Cause
writer's like, yeah, you know what? You blew your fuckwad.
Yeah. Well,
Way
it
too
could
early.
be because it's the two younger, especially the main guy, that use it the most, without a doubt, by far. And then he's talking to another guy, and he's not swearing at all, and his so much more power in the words he's saying. Because a problem actors have, and we've run into this on set too, where they're, especially if they're not allowed to swear so much or they feel uncomfortable swearing, you give them that word, and it's like, how the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing? Can you
Yeah.
pull back? Yeah, it's like, I finally get to say this word. I never say it in normal life. And it just, pow! So it's just like, but that's a small quibble. But the movie, I mean, the show is really, really good and a lot of fun to watch.
Cool. I can't wait to finish it. Fuck. So you guys know that I was sick for a week there, and I watched a
Yeah.
ton of shit. And one of the things I watched, I'm going to talk about two films here because I always got them confused, and I had not seen either of them. From the 90s, you know the movie California with a K with David
Oh, yeah.
Duchovny and Brad Pitt?
Yeah.
One of those Pulp Fiction knockoff kind of movies.
And then I watched True Romance with Christian
Oh,
Slater and
okay.
Patricia Arquette. I've always thought these were kind of the same movie, I guess.
Oh,
And they are very different movies.
yes.
Huh.
Yes.
I enjoyed both of them.
Mhm.
I thought California was much, much darker than I thought it was going to be. And
Mm.
Brad Pitt and Juliet Lewis were great. Duchovny, I've got a love-hate relationship with him. Sometimes I love him, sometimes I don't. And I think he was kind of miscast in this. True Romance, I see why Christian Slater, everybody was loving him. He's really good in that.
That is I love that film. That is such a great movie.
He's so weird and relatable because he's a movie nerd and all of that stuff. And he's not very likable, but he is really good. And you can tell, it's a Tarantino script. I loved it. I wanted to kill the composer for his decisions.
There's
of-
some strange music in there.
Kind of very happy, almost Jamaican
Yeah.
reggae type stuff, which I think is the worst music in the world. And I was
Ouch.
really taken out of these scenes. And I
Oh,
was
really?
thinking, boy, I'd love to see this movie with a completely new score.
It was weird because I had almost the opposite reaction to that. It's such a unique score that to me, it's entirely True Romance. This music is True Romance's music,
Mm.
and no other film can use it. And I've heard it in other films occasionally, and it's just like, ooh. But it is so unique and so weird. I can
Yeah.
fully understand why it would be annoying.
Well, it reminds me of the music doesn't remind me, but it reminds me how I felt of that movie Ravenous, which I love,
yes.
but I fucking hate the score.
Yeah, that one I agree with you on. I was like, what the hell's going on in this? But yeah, True Romance, I think True Romance is an amazing movie. He's one of those things where it's like, well, maybe now that everybody kind of hates Tarantino a little bit, he's getting a little bit of that trouble. Maybe he could just write some shit and let talented directors like Tony Scott directed that one,
Right.
direct his script. So maybe you get that Bob Dylan effect where you write really, really good stuff.
Right.
He's not a bad director by any means, but he is an over-the-top director, and he's also very much, when you're watching a Quentin Tarantino movie for good or bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
But man, I really like True Romance.
Hard for me to fault him after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I thought was just brilliant.
Although speaking of writing, he turned that into a book and released
which
it.
isn't
Yeah,
great.
a friend of mine actually gifted me that book. I opened the door. There's a package from Amazon. It's a nice hardcover edition of this.
Oh,
and,
nice.
and he was just saying, I really like this book, and I thought you would. He doesn't listen to the show, so I can say that I read about 4 pages of it, and I was like, stick to screenplays.
Yes, this is not a well-written book.
Really?
I think, but with that one, even though I like that movie a lot, there's the Tarantino moments.
Oh, for sure.
Putting the feet on the back of the.
God.
It's
Oh
like,
my God.
yeah, we all know you have a foot fetish.
Not
now. Can
everyone
you
loves feet like you do.
It's a dirty foot fetish,
Yes.
which I don't know why that bothers me. Look, if you're walking around barefoot, you're going to have dirty feet, but I want to see a clean foot if I have to see a foot at all.
Yeah. Yes. So but yeah, I think that's the best movie he's done in a very long time.
Well, I've actually cut back a little bit on my film and TV watching, just a tiny bit, because it's been 2 years of this goddamn pandemic. Sorry, Mom. And
She's talking to my mom right there. Your mom doesn't care, right?
And so I'm just getting really burnt out on my life and the way that it looks right now. So now once a week, I'm spending a lot of time reading, and I just kind of read comics. So yeah, Sundays are now dedicated, aside from showing up on this show occasionally, also to reading. And so I've come across some really cool DC Black Label content where I've just started raiding the shelves every time I see a new DC Black Label thing. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but I'm going to check it out. I know I had texted you guys privately, but I really loved Human Target, it's noir. So it shouldn't be my thing.
Oh.
I know. It's very like 60s color palette. It's just beautifully
60s brightly colored noir film. What
I
recent
know.
movie fits that bill?
You know what?
I have a question. Is this a new comic book? Because there
Yeah.
used to be a Human Target.
There was. Yeah, no, this is a new one.
Okay.
It's written by Tom King. So he's been doing a lot of the really good Batman stuff recently.
Okay.
And he's made a bit of a name for himself, but he's done a great job with Human Target. And I'm giving a shit about a lot of people or characters I probably would not normally give a shit about.
Nice.
It's a really cool story. It's going to be in the first issues, not a spoiler. He is the Human Target, and he's playing Lex Luthor for a kind of tech talk. Hey, everybody, guess what we're going to do this month with our thing? It's amazing. And he gets poisoned, and the poison is meant to be for Lex Luthor.
Well, I can see Lex Luthor doing a TED Talk pretty easily.
Of
Right?
course.
It's actually really nicely done. And he gets poisoned. And so each issue is just the number of days he has left to live before he dies from this poison. So he's trying to figure out who did it to him. And all along the way, he's like, I think this person did it to me, but I'm going to sleep with her anyway, because what do I got to lose? And you're just like, all right, cool. Sounds good. Also, Catwoman's great. Swamp Thing's great. There's just a lot of really good content coming out.
Nice.
Is Swamp Thing still cosmic Swamp Thing? I mean,
It's insane. I mean, what do you mean by cosmic?
well, I mean, my Swamp Thing was Len Wein and
Bernie
Bernie
Wrightson.
Wrightson, and he was a swamp monster. And then,
It's hard to know because it's so early. Like there's literally been one issue.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So I can't say, like, it's a future world where humans have really done a number on the environment. And there is a dark Swamp Thing that rises first. It is not our Swamp Thing.
You've piqued my interest
Yeah,
in this.
no
I might
kidding.
have to check this out.
Yep. And then we're trying at the end figuring out, is our Swamp Thing coming, or is it just, I mean, this guy is it's rough. It's grotty to look at what he does. So
Grotty. And
Nice.
grody.
And grody. Whatever.
gross.
It's an emphasis on a word. You understand. It's gross.
Alrighty then. I watched a Shudder. Shudder presents films. The Medium, South Korean
Yeah.
Thailand-based film.
Yeah, how was
I haven't
that?
seen it.
It's good.
Uh-huh.
It's way too long. It's like a 2.5 hour horror film. I'm going, no, man. But it's sort of the idea is that there's a possessed spirit that travels down the lineage of this one family,
Mhm.
and the transfer process is often bad. And
Mhm.
that's what the movie's about. It's good.
American?
No, it's Thailand, South Korea.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good, but boy, 45 minutes could have been chopped the hell out of this movie really easily.
Oh, man.
And it would have made it a lot better because it's got some really creepy shit.
Mm.
But it's really creepy stuff then. Ah! So, but it's good. It's I liked it. I liked watching it, but man, 2.5 hours is a long time for a horror film.
Yeah, I don't love a lot of stuff on Shudder, but I love that Shudder exists and that there's just a ton of content on it. Whether I
Yeah.
like it or not,
Yeah.
somebody's going to like it.
Oh yeah.
They've given a space for so many up and coming horror,
Yeah.
Mhm.
filmmakers. It's
And
just
foreign
so incredible.
releases, they're really good with.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it. I know nothing about it, but I got a recommendation on Shudder for something called Clear Cut, which was, if I remember correctly, the person said, Antlers, Clear Cut, much, much better.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
So he was somehow comparing it to
Okay.
Antlers.
Nice.
Should we take a little break?
Sure.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we are talking about funeral homes or cemeteries.
Graveyards.
Graveyards.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hot Wheels! It's the Monster Jam Gravedigger Boneyard Bash! Load Gravedigger into the launcher and slam it to show off your skills! Crush that car! Hit that flame! That tombstone's history! Whoa! Gravediggers bring it down the house! Raise the ramp and bury that ghost! Nice shot! Gravediggers got big, big hair! You're the champ of the ramp! Hot Wheels Monster Jam Gravedigger Boneyard Bash playset. Other trucks each sold separately.
Be part of the action at HotWheels.com.
We have returned, and Eric, this was your subgenre, right?
Why, yes, it was. And I messed it up a little bit, but that's okay. It's been cleared. We now can do funeral homes. I was looking at graves and graveyard and realized the movie called The Undertaker doesn't have any.
That's ridiculous.
That's
But
hilarious.
it does have funeral homes.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so like I said, this is 1988's Undertaker.
Welcome to my parlor, said the spider.
How many times have you seen it?
Moron.
He disturbed you in Maniac.
We can assume we're dealing with a psycho?
Probably a drifter.
No. There are traces of semen on the intestine tissue.
I think I'm gonna be sick. Bunch of hypocrites.
Oh, now, Roscoe, why did you say that?
Are you kidding, Hazel?
Okay. Bye.
This wacko is following this picture scene by scene. This movie's his M.O.
Can you start using that police jargon again?
Are you sure you don't need a ride home?
I'm sure.
Thank you. Good night, Nancy.
Good night.
You're breaking my... Yes, you're breaking... You never loved me. Yes, I do. You're breaking my heart. I'll kill you for what you did. Really?
Beyond Maniac. Beyond the first deadly sin.
I'm sure you know now I never meant to hurt you. You're always one of my favorites. I just want you to look so beautiful with me and everybody.
Look, Pam, do yourself a favor. Don't give these guys any weird ideas. They're already crazy enough.
Now he's back in his final motion picture appearance.
Ah.
Gene, thank you for staying late. I hope I haven't spoiled your plans for the evening.
From Code Red Releasing.
Business hasn't been good lately. What with all these vitamins that people are taking, and the Surgeon General's warning about smoking.
Joe Spinell.
And she said you should put his hairpiece on or his friends wouldn't recognize him.
The Undertaker.
You moron.
I guess I'll have to drum up some business.
Not familiar with this one.
This is a first for me on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not even listed.
Oh my gosh.
You can find it if you search for the lead actor, but it's grayed out. If you look for the movie by the movie's title, it doesn't show up at all.
Oh,
that's wild. I wonder how small you have to be to get grayed out on Rotten Tomatoes.
Here's a question.
Small.
Does it have a Wikipedia page?
I don't remember using one, so maybe not.
Okay.
This is budget. Who the hell knows? It is available on Tubi and Prime, though. This is directed by Frank Avianca. Sort of. I'll get to that later on. This is the only film he directed, and I'll explain why also later on. And Steve Bono, production manager for Queen's 1983 live show.
Oh, nice.
But writer by William James Kennedy. He wrote Ankle Bracelet and has a movie in post-production right now called Lewisburg. But was more known as an actor for Another World and Guiding Light. But, let's see. Stars Joe Spinell, who, if you are a purveyor of disturbing horror films, you will know from Maniac, the original Maniac. The greasy, gross guy who is the namesake of the film. However, he was also in Rocky 1 and 2, Godfather 1 and 2, Sorcerer, and Night Shift.
Jeez.
He is a very Italian-looking guy. So
I just did a first watch of Night Shift while I was sick, and I was like, what a delight. How did
Ron Howard film?
Yes, how did I miss this when it came out?
Michael Keaton taking that one dive
So
off.
good.
It's a good film, yes. But he had a named role in Godfather and I think in Rocky, but he's a lot of background stuff just because he is so Italian looking. The also stars Rebecca Verone, who was in Columbo. Patrick Askin, who is in Life on Mars. Unfortunately, it's the U.S. remake. I take it we've both seen both versions.
Yep.
Bikini Summer 1 and 2.
My favorite.
And Joel Nagle, who's best known for, again, Guiding Light, Do the Right Thing, and I think it's a Mexican horror film called We Are What We Are.
Oh, yeah.
Cannibal thing.
Well, spoiler. Jeez.
I think it's a spoiler. So this one has an interesting beginning where there's a lady on the side of the road with a flat tire. This guy pulls up on a biker and you get the perfect 80s line, need a man to change your tire.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, well, no, I just don't have a spare. And he's like, well, I'll give you a ride into town. So she gets on the back of the motorcycle. And then, of course, he drives off into the woods where he attempts to attack her, but she beats the shit out of him.
Awesome.
Nice.
Runs away, but then gets in the car of the Undertaker.
Uh-oh.
Uncle Roscoe is his name.
Oh, my God.
The woman was actually his girlfriend, was Joel's girlfriend at the time of the film. So he kills his girlfriend.
Beautiful.
The film has a very strange thing where it opens up for a little while and it's first person heavy breathing thing that a lot of slashers and stuff did in the 80s to create the mystery of who the killer is. But you know who the killer is. So I'm like, why are you doing this? I don't know if I'm guessing this was an acting mistake because if the director called for it, he's kind of gross. He gets one of his victims, his first victim or second, I guess, on film. He puts his hands through the screen with a syringe to knock him out and pokes it right in her ear.
Oh.
It's like,
ow, man.
oh. So I was like, I don't know if that would work either, but it sure looks disturbing. Then, of course, he takes her to his undertaker place, and he's an unfortunate person. The introduction of the leading lady kind of gives you an idea of what the movie's about when she starts teaching a class. And the subject of the day, necrophilia. As the takeaway informative, which I have not researched to see if this is true, but apparently the U.S. has more reported necrophilia than any other country in the world.
Seems like Germany would have something to say about that. But
reported, I think, is the key word.
There you go. And hey, you can tell it's 1988. Why? Because everybody's wearing fanny packs from the school.
Yes.
Of course, I guess those are back in again. I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty. They were pretty cool like 2 years ago.
And then there's a scene suddenly cuts in. It's like a satanic ritual is going on. I'm like, and the actor in the scene kind of looks like it might be Joel, but you just can't see his face. I'm like, what is going on in this movie? Well, pulls out and Uncle Roscoe's sitting in a theater watching the movie. Like, oh, okay. Man, this movie is full of creepy, sweaty dudes. Not just Joel, who is incredibly uncomfortable and creepy in this film, but like the lead detective, who actually turned out to be the director when I watched some making of stuff, is like, did you just get out of a pool or something? I mean, it is wet. Like the hair is wet. And I was like, wow. There's a nephew involved who's running around because he thinks he's actually Uncle Roscoe to this guy. But he's not sure what he's doing. He thinks he caught him maybe doing necrophilia, so he gets his teacher involved because apparently she knows a lot about it. And it's not a great movie, but it is an interesting film. It is such an interesting late 80s strange what's going on here. Some really bad violence with some really bad effects in other scenes, and like he takes his body and hangs him in body bags on hooks. And the first couple times you see them, they look pretty disturbing. And I was like, I don't know if they just shot in order and they just sat there. And by the end, they look really crappy.
Oh,
your effects are not aging well.
This is a very low budget film.
Oh yeah, the acting is uneven, shall we say? Joel at times is Joe at times is incredibly good, and then other times horrible. It's like, what is going on? And most of the rest of the cast is fine, except for cops are always seem really shitty in these movies. Yeah. This weird theory is thrown out by the guy who's running the theater, who now thinks that these killings that are being reported in the news are based on the movie they're showing, with absolutely no relation between the movie that's showing and the killings he's doing. But that's the conclusion this guy has come to. So he starts going out trying to find, he thinks, of course, this creepy, sweaty guy is probably the killer, which is a safe bet considering there's 3-4 people in the theater. Way to narrow it down there, buddy. There's a wonderful scene you both would appreciate with some really, really solid eye trauma.
No. Why?
Yeah, exactly. This is a Vinegar Syndrome release. So you understand why the description of what happens in the movie is vague, because the movie's vague.
Sure.
There's some interesting stuff behind it. The movie, when they sourced it, they found an original 35 millimeter print of it, but it wasn't complete. There's been VHS makings of it, and so they went back and pulled from the VHS finally after a few years of trying to find anything else.
Wow.
And you can tell where the VHS starts. They worked hard to try to recreate it. And hey, you guys in the VHS movies, this is what old VHS really looks like. Like half the end, like the last 10 minutes, at least 5 minutes of it is this recovered VHS footage. I'm like, what the hell was the other version? Like, how did the other version end? It's just like, and we're done. Further trivia, the tag for this line, he'll love you to death. I don't know why.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. It also had an alternate title for a while called Death Merchant. The script was written in, surprisingly, 5 days.
Shock.
Let's see, what else happened? The reason everybody was so sweaty in this film was up until a couple of years ago, it was one of the 5 hottest summers in the history of New York.
Oh, boy.
And they weren't running air conditioning because, sound didn't let it. So I guess when they were and those were the lights we were talking about on our last episode, which would get really, really hot.
Right.
So it's 110 or 100 and something like that outside. Then you're inside with no AC with hot lights. Okay, I understand why you're sweating so much, sir. Originally considered to play the role of Roscoe was Richard Lynch, the heavily scarred guy from a lot of 80s movies.
Oh.
He's one of those guys you'd recognize him if you saw him.
Yeah.
But Joe actually lobbied really hard to get this role. He really wanted to play this weird, sick, disturbing guy. The film was never released to theaters or to video.
Oh.
This explains its Rotten Tomatoes lack of information.
Exactly. The only known copy for a long time to know exist was Joe's copy on VHS, and he died within like a year of this film.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of a lost sort of legendary film. It circulated, of course, as bootleg and stuff, and Code Red released a DVD of it a while ago, but it was the edited version, which a lot of the stuff missing from it. That was in 2010. And for some reason, they took it and padded it with public domain stuff. So the movie's in New York, but it's New York State. And they went and like in the padded version, the lady comes out of the theater and Joe kind of follows her. And then there's a whole bunch of footage of New York Square. It's just like, suddenly we're in Times Square. We're suddenly in New York. It's like, and the director's like, what are you doing to my movie, man? They're never in New York City. But so, of course, Vinegar Syndrome got it right. Restored and released on Blu-ray. I think there's another version of the film on their disc that might have that padded stuff. They spent 4 years looking for the lost footage and just couldn't find it. But they decided we'll just use the VHS and make it as good looking as we possibly can. Part of what spearheaded it coming out on video at all was in 2003, one of the writers in Fangoria found out about it and wrote an article. So the original director is credited as Franco Di Stefanino, which is a pseudonym for the following 4 people: screenwriter William James Kennedy, cinematographer Richard E. Brooks, and producers Steve Bono and Frank Avianca. Because they decided we all had a hard time working on this film, so we're just going to make up our name and we'll all be the directors.
Interesting. Did you like it?
It's one of those curiosity films where I am always fascinated by the history of film. I like finding interesting, unique segments. Joe's got a certain heavy cachet in horror films. I'm interested sometimes to see stuff he did. So as a historical watch, I found it really interesting. And I probably will go back and watch some of the extras, but I probably won't watch the movie again. But I'm glad I saw it.
Cool.
Wow, very neat. I went with a film I haven't seen in a while, but have seen once before. 1994's Ed Wood.
Tim Burton, director of Batman, Beetlejuice, and Edward Scissorhands, now takes you to a completely different world. The true story of a Hollywood legend, Ed Wood.
And action!
He made movies like no one else.
You want to keep moving. You've got to get through that door. That was perfect.
Perfect. Do you know anything about film production?
Well, I like to think so.
He had an eye for talent.
I met Bela Lugosi.
Well, I thought he was dead.
This is the most uncomfortable coffin I've ever been in. No, he's very much alive. You flying saucer?
He had a passion for storytelling.
Get me transvestites. I need transvestites.
You're flashy. They want that. Okay. But they want professionalism. So nix on the Nelly without losing naivete.
What kind of a movie is this? It's science fiction. A heartbreaking romance. Grave robbers from outer space.
Grave robbers from what?
And he had a secret he couldn't hide.
I like to dress in women's clothing. Panties, sweaters, pumps. It's just something I do.
You don't like sex with girls?
No, I love sex with girls. Wearing their clothes makes me feel closer to them.
How can you act so casual when you're dressed like that?
All right, everybody, let's finish this picture.
Touchstone Pictures presents Johnny Depp, Martin Landau, Sarah Jessica Parker, Patricia Arquette, and Bill Murray in the true story.
Give him a hand. Keep rolling.
Of an unforgettable filmmaker.
We're making another movie. I got the Church of Beverly Hills to put up the cash.
How do you get all your friends to get baptized just so you can make a monster movie?
And his legacy that will live forever.
How do you burn this out?
Shake his legs around. Looks like he's killing. This is the one.
Put in! I command you!
This is the one I'll be remembered for.
Ed Wood, a Tim Burton film.
Really? Worst film you ever saw? Well, my next one will be better. Hello?
Now I wasn't sure if I had for years said this was my favorite Tim Burton movie and had really, really loved it. But it's been so long that I was like, I need to check myself on that. And this was a great opportunity to watch it again.
Nice.
And
50-50.
Oh.
Yeah. Really love it, but also can see the flaws that I couldn't see the first time around.
Okay.
So this has a Rotten Tomatoes of 92% from critics and 88% from audience. So pretty well regarded. However, the budget was $18 million and box office was 5.9.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it did that poorly.
Bad, yeah.
It was a huge deal when it came out when I was at Suncoast, and there was a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, I think it just either it was marketed wrong or who knows what happened, but it just died. So it's directed, as I said, by Tim Burton. He's done 40 directing projects, including Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Batman Returns, Edward Scissorhands, and he's going to be doing the upcoming Beetlejuice 2. Which will be
That's still happening?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't know. IMDb. Hard to say. Yeah. Is there a reason it might not happen?
They've been talking about it for
a
10
long
years
time.
or something, they've been saying.
Okay, interesting. I was like, did somebody die? It's based on a book by Rudolph Gray called Nightmare of Ecstasy. Rudolph Gray's done like a lot of historical research into Ed Wood. So it was kind of interesting they were lifting these stories from him. Screenwriter Scott Alexander, who's done 18 things, including Dolomite Is My Name, American Crime Story, Goosebumps, Big Eyes, 1408, Men on the Moon, etc. Larry Karaszewski, who's done 17 things, exact same stuff. I think he must be a writing partner with Scott. It is starring a lot of people. This is a very star-studded movie, including Johnny Depp, who plays the lead. He's really great in this role. It's probably my favorite role for him. He's really just fresh and energetic and really acting his heart out.
He's so likable in this.
So
likable. He's such a loser. You know,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm really rooting for this guy, but he's his own worst enemy.
Totally at every turn. God, I really adored him in this. He's almost unrecognizable to the roles we know him as today, where he's just tired. He just looks like he hates acting now. He's been in 95 things, including Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Legend of Jack Sparrow's the video game, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Pirates of the Caribbean, At World's End, Pirates of the Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, and most recently, 70 episodes of Puffins as Johnny Puff.
I'm starting to think I know why he looks like he hates acting.
Yeah. And even the Tim Burton movies he's in now, I mean, he just, like, Willy Wonka was awful. Just a lot of them, it's like he's just pulling from that same thread. Also, Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. He's been in 178 things. He's incredible. He's from North by Northwest, Crimes and Misdemeanors, a bunch of episodes of things like Space 1999 and Mission Impossible, where he played Roland Hand. He also is the voice of Scorpion in the Spider-Man, the animated series. Sarah Jessica Parker plays Dolores Fuller, the girlfriend. She's in 64 things, including Hocus Pocus, Honeymoon in Vegas, LA Story, but probably best known for her hit TV show 1982's Square Pegs as Patty Green and nothing else.
Glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Well,
I had to
said.
mention
Well
it,
done.
you know. Patricia Arquette is in this as Kathy, 66 things, including we would know her from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, but also True Romance and 130 episodes of Medium. Jeffrey Jones as Criswell. He's been in 70 things, including Ed Rooney in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Vincent D'Onofrio as Orson Welles. He's been in 112 things, including Wilson Fisk in Marvel and The Cell. Bill Murray as Bunny Breckenbridge, 96 things. I almost don't even want to know you if you don't know who Bill Murray is. But just for the sake of it, Ghostbusters, Scrooge, Groundhog's Day, Lost in Translation, everything by Wes Anderson. And his favorite role of all time, Garfield.
And super popular internet star.
Oh, so popular. Lisa Marie as Vampira, sorry. She's been in 19 things. She's most notable for being a model for Calvin Klein. She was actually engaged to Tim Burton for a while, and she's actually the inspiration for the character of Sally in Nightmare Before Christmas. George the Animal Steel is Tor Johnson. He's a popular WWE and WWF wrestler. And last but not least, and there are more people, but I am already tired, Juliet Landau as Loretta King. She's been in 59 things, but we would know her as Drusilla from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The story of this, it's just a kind of series of vignettes. I would say it's kind of the coming of age for Ed Wood movie, coming into his own, kind of figuring out who he is and how he got where he is. But I wouldn't say it has like a real arc to it. That being said, it's a really fun series of scenes that go back to back. It's black and white, set in 1952 where it begins. Ed is a theater director living with his girlfriend, Sarah Jessica Parker. Ed wants to break into cinema, but is rejected at every turn. By chance, he happens to walk past a funeral home where he sees the great Bela Lugosi trying on caskets. He follows him out of the store and offers him a ride home when he sees Bela is going to take the bus, and they become fast friends. He finally gets a shot at making a film with I Changed My Sex, and he begins a kind of difficult relationship with Bela Lugosi where Bela is desperate for money and he keeps trying to give him roles, but the roles are very strange and like torturous and bizarre and not necessarily well-fitting, but he loves him so much and Bela loves him so much. He takes the film and he turns it into Glenn and Glenda, where Ed himself plays the role of the main character as well as the director. And it gives him a chance to finally explore his love of wearing women's underwear and clothing in general. When the film is a huge bust, he convinces a butcher to give him money to make Bride of the Atom, later recalled Bride of the Monster, where they beg, borrow, and steal to get the film made, and including stealing a giant octopus, which leads to one of the best scenes in the movie, where Bela Lugosi, they're just making these really low budget. Really low budget movies. And they've stolen this octopus, but they forgot to grab the octopus motor. So the octopus is not going to be able to fling itself and move in any way, shape, or form. And it's the middle of the night. They've basically they've created like a little pond of water. And they're like, all right, Bela, get in there and wrestle with the octopus. It's this old man. And he's like, starts just tirade about how he turned down Frankenstein because he thought it would be too humiliating. And here he is about to walk into this pond. And then he gets in there and like, they're like, all right, now just fling it around, fling the arms around you like you're struggling with it. And I mean, he gives it his all. Like the way that Bela is played, he never holds back. He always gives 1,000%. And it's just an incredible performance. At the wrap party for this, his girlfriend, who's humiliated and enraged by his cross-dressing when she sees him do a striptease for the cast and crew, breaks up with him. And to make matters worse, Bela Lugosi, who's been struggling with morphine and meth, essentially tries to commit suicide. So Ed has to try and get him clean. At which point he meets Patricia Arquette, who is super supportive new girlfriend. Bella is ejected from the hospital where he's been recovering from. He doesn't really have any money / not enough money / any insurance whatsoever to pay for his stay and to properly detox. So the Ed Wood character in this, he goes up to him and he goes, "Hey, bud. Yeah, no, you're healthy. It's fine. The doctor said you can go now." And we all know that he's like not okay. And Bela Lugosi's like, "Are you sure? I don't feel so good." He's like, "No, man, you're great. You got this. Let's go. Let's get you home." And he's like, "Okay." And it's just always every single turn, keeping everything very, very positive. Unfortunately, he really has left this hospital too soon, and he dies shortly after this. Ed has filmed one short scene with him sniffing a rose, and he wants to use it in another picture. And he gets the opportunity yet again when his landlord is ready to chuck him out. He mentions he's in the movie business, and his landlord mentions that his Baptist church wants to make a series of films about the life of Christ, but currently they can only really afford one. Ed convinces him to let him make a B movie with that money so that they can make 10 times over back in profits, and then he'll be able to make the whole series. So we then get a series of scenes where he has to get his whole cast baptized with the Baptist. So we smash cut into a shot of them all in this pew wearing these like white robes. And it's, Bill Murray, who's this sort of effeminate gay character. And you got Vampiras there for reasons. And everybody's just stood there, clearly do not belong. Director who's been cross-dressing this whole time. So good. So good. The Baptists, however, begin to really make trouble on set and say that the film, which is Grave Robbers from Outer Space, it's really not cool to have these grave robbers because it's very sacrosanct. And he's like, the name of the film. You've known this whole time. He storms out in anger and meets Orson Welles. And he gets a little... so good. Little pep talk from Vincent D'Onofrio. And then returns, takes back his movie, and finishes it. And everything's great. Everything's awesome. And then we freeze frame to the titles where it explains what's happened to everybody and immediately says that basically his entire career just got worse and worse and worse. He became an alcoholic and died in his 50s. And it's just a smiling picture of Ed Wood. You're like, oh God. I like it a lot. It's black and white. It feels weirdly kind of like early Lynch. It just has this real edginess to it, but it's got great art design. You can see the Tim Burton passion for art in here that at least used to exist. There's really great lines all the way through. It's got a lot of fun, interesting energy. Things like they go through a spook house fairground ride, and it just looks like somebody recreated the idea of a carnival and the spooky ride, and with so much care, and the skeletons that pop out. It's really great. The Hollywood Hills metal sign, you can tell it's been hammered in together, and it looks really rough. Everything just feels very textured in a very satisfying way. And the time that it comes out to, it just feels like the 50s. They really nailed it. The movie overall has a lot of heart. Ed's constant optimism is a joy to watch. It's just wildly fun with the various characters who are really juxtaposed against each other so nicely. The transitions from scenes to scene is really good. For example, Loretta King takes over the role of what his girlfriend was going to play in one of the second movie that he's going to make. And then we cut to his girlfriend throwing glasses at him, and plates and stuff in their apartment. And then the scene ends with her throwing a frying pan at his head. And then we cut to him walking through set holding a ice pack to his head and walking around. And everything flows really, really well. Someone clearly cared about this story. And this is like their dream film. Somebody loved the idea of doing this, wanted to do it, and got the opportunity to do it. A little bit of trivia. Director Tim Burton says this is his favorite of his movies, yet again.
I would say he should.
He should. I totally agree.
A phenomenally well-made film. And a little, like you mentioned, he kind of became Tim Burton as it went on. And so all my stuff has to look really wild and weird, even when it's not Right. In this movie, he held that back so well.
He did. The only time, in fact, that spook ride is the only time that I'm like, oh, the big black swirl and you can see little moments of Tim Burton, but the whole film is not, they're not pushing that aesthetic just for the sake of it. Like in Willy Wonka later, where it just feels so forced and awful. Tim Burton said that he was drawn to the story because of the similarities between Edward D. Wood Jr.'s relationship with Bela Lugosi and his own relationship with Vincent Price late in that actor's life. One day, Kathy Wood, Edward D. Wood Jr.'s wife, visited the set and asked to meet Johnny Depp. That day, they were filming a scene in which Wood would look extremely messed up. Which made Burton very nervous for what Kathy would think of the movie. And when Depp exited his trailer, she said, "That's my Eddie." Really lovely. Unhappy with Vincent D'Onofrio's verbal impersonation of Orson Welles, Tim Burton had his voice dubbed by Maurice LaMarche, a.k.a. the Brain from Pinky and the Brain. He also did the voice of Orson Welles in The Simpsons. It is really weird. Like that whole bit, there is so clear that Vincent D'Onofrio is being dubbed. It's just surreal. And it is like, is that Pinky? I was like, there's no way. Maybe Vincent's just doing a thing. Nope. Pinky in the Brain. At the time, Johnny Depp was really depressed about films and filmmaking. By accepting this part, it gave him a quote unquote chance to stretch out and have some fun. And working with Martin Landau, quote, rejuvenated my love for acting. He accepted the role within 10 minutes of being offered the part. He said that his characterization of Edward D. Wood Jr. was a mixture of blind optimism, Ronald Reagan, and the enthusiasm of the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. George the Animal Steele was given heavy shoes with extra weights to help him recreate Tor Johnson's lumbering walk. And in order to imitate Bela Lugosi's voice and mannerisms, Martin Landau watched approximately 35 Lugosi movies and purchased Hungarian language tapes. With the tapes, he would literally practice the language and see where the tongue would go. When Hungarian-born director Peter Medek saw the film, he called Landau and praised him. Medek said that Landau's accent sounded spot on because you are not an actor trying to do a Hungarian accent. You are a character trying not to do one. And the film was originally developed with Columbia Pictures. However, studio boss Martin Canton objected to making the film in black and white. Tim Burton walked off the project, shopping it around various other studios such as 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Universal, Warner Brothers, until Walt Disney Company picked it up under the Touchstone Pictures banner while granting Burton creative control.
Nice.
That's my movie.
Remind me, Landau got the Academy Award,
he
didn't
did, yes.
Yeah.
He deserved it.
Weird that didn't give it a push in the box office.
Maybe because it was already out and the box office had coming on.
There was weird. I remember when at Suncoast when it came out, there's a very weird marketing problem. We received normally you get 20 whatever of a mid-level movie like that, and 3 showed up.
Whoa.
I'm like, okay, when it's a street date, and then like the next day, get a call from my district manager. He's going, "Do not put those out under any circumstances. There's been a problem with the rights. We need to mail them all back. If any of them get put out, Suncoast is going to be in huge trouble, and you'll probably be fired or at least reprimanded."
Whoa.
And it was sitting there back there looking at it going, damn it, I know they know I have 3.
Right.
Can I pocket one?
But so there was some, and that could have been Oscar related because I don't remember it being an Oscar buzz kind of movie. And maybe they said, well, we're going to try to put it back in theaters so we can't go out. I don't know.
Right.
Rights are so different now than they were then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we know, cemeteries was the topic. And I at first was like, we didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this episode. And I was going to do House by the Cemetery, which I tried to watch again. And I was like, God damn, this movie is slow.
Yeah.
Then I thought I'd do my usual bullshit. And I was like, oh, there is a movie called Pet Graveyard, which is not an Asylum Pictures release, but it might as well be. And it looked like it was trying to play off the Pet Cemetery thing. And I watched about 10 minutes of that. And it was British, first of all.
Oh.
But it also was not a ripoff of Pet Cemetery. It was more like a ripoff of the Final Destination movies.
Oh,
and I was like, shit, I can't. There's no cemetery in this thing.
That's weird.
Huh.
Then I thought I will just do Pet Sematary 2. And God, as much as I want to like that movie, I just can't. It's got people I love in it, and it's just so bad. So that brings me to my choice from 2005, Venom.
Suitcase.
Something got a hold of them good down there.
Sheriff, was there a suitcase?
Yeah, there was. We pulled it out. It was empty, though.
I know it doesn't make any sense, but something really, really weird is going on. What was in that suitcase, Cece?
Murderers, sadists, the evil of countless souls was inside that suitcase.
What was that?
I don't know.
Rachel!
Tell me that wasn't Ray Sawyer.
The house is held. He can't come in. We're safe here.
You got him.
Eric?
Wow.
Going with one of your low budget, nobody knows picks, huh?
Yes. Not the Venom from 2018 and 2021.
Okay.
I could find no budget information on this, but it looks like, it's not a cheap looking film, but it's also got some cheap looking scenes in it. So this is a Dimension film. So 2005 Dimension, it's got a cast of very attractive young people, and probably a poster that has all of their faces on it and shit like that.
This must have been hell to research. Google Venom. See what happens.
Yeah. Box office of only $882,000. So this was a big, big flop. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at 11%. The audience has it at 21%.
Oh, twice as liked.
Yeah, it feels about right. Both of those feel about right to me. Directed by Jim Gillespie, who directed I Know What You Did Last Summer and I See You, EYE, I See You, the Stallone movie. God, I really want to like that one too because he's hunting a serial killer. It's not very good. Jim also did a couple of posthumous Queen videos. So after Freddie had passed, Queen put out an album called Made in Heaven that had a bunch of his vocals on it that they wrote songs around. And this guy directed those music videos. Written by Flint Dill. Written by three people, actually. Flint Dill, who has a bunch of TV cartoons and video game scripts, but he also wrote An American Tail, Fievel Goes West.
Oh, my God.
There you go.
And then his co-writer in this was John Zur Platten, who has just done a ton of video game scripts. Off air, we were talking about video game scripts and how fucking awful they are.
Yeah.
How fucking awful they are to write.
Right. Yes.
And then also written by Brandon Boyce, who was the writer of the Stephen King adaptation Apt Pupil and Wicker Park. Do you remember Wicker Park? Yeah. So he wrote that.
Wicker Park.
I don't know that one.
Starring Agnes Brooker. It's okay if you are a beautiful blonde who got saddled with the name Agnes to go ahead and change your name when you become an actor. I just don't think the name Agnes helps you when you're trying out for parts.
I guess it stands out against the mix of
I guess,
Tiffany's and Heather's.
But they're like, well, next up
Julia's.
we have Agnes Brucker. It's like, do you guys realize we're making a teen horror film? Is she going to play the grandmother in this? No, she's playing the lead. She's been in The Returned, the series Once Upon a Time, 24, and The Bold and the Beautiful, in which I bet she played one of the Beautifuls.
Not the Wolds.
Right. The Brave and the Bold and the Beautiful. Jonathan Jackson, who was Kyle Reese in the Terminator TV series. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And 370 episodes of General Hospital and 124 episodes of Nashville.
Wow.
Bijou Phillips, who was in Hostel 2, the It's Alive remake, and the series Raising Hope. And Rick Kramer, who plays Ray Sawyer. He was in G.I. Jane, Live Free or Die Hard, Resident Evil Extinction. Ray Sawyer, we're going to find out, is our Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger. So they wanted to make a franchise killer, clearly.
Oops.
So this starts off right in a creepy old cemetery where an old woman is digging up an old suitcase out of the ground, and then she drives off. She throws the suitcase in the back of her car, drives off. Meanwhile, we are introduced to our cast of young, attractive Warner Brothers actors in a Dimension horror film. And they're all hanging out at the local burger joint. This is a very small town. This is a New Orleans town, and the cemetery is very New Orleans, creepy-looking cemetery. It's not the big cemetery in New Orleans, but it's got all the cool hanging branches and moss hanging off of it. So it's like a voodoo cemetery or something. There's some drama at this burger joint with our main guy who is there with his friends and his girlfriend who they've just recently broke up. And then this very creepy but apparently nice dude shows up to add a little more tension between them. This is Ray Sawyer. He's creepy looking, but he is supposedly a very nice guy. Our heroes are Eden and Eric. You tell me, as a fellow writer, Vanessa, would you, in the age of Final Draft, which this was written in, would you ever name your characters with the same alphabet starting letter?
God, no.
Fuck no. It just causes problems. Why would you do that to yourself?
Confusing. I would also not even give them the same hair color. Like, two girls that have blonde hair in a movie are always confusing. Two boys with brown. Sorry, you got to differentiate.
If you're not a writer and you don't use Final Draft, it autofills everything for you once you get your characters in there. That's why you don't name your characters with the same letter.
Oh, sure.
It's just annoying as fuck. So anyway, Eden and Eric. After work, Eden and Eric are walking home arguing because he's like, why'd you break up with me? And she's like, I'm going to school and all this shit. And then Ray drives up in his cool, old, creepy truck and asks if everything's all right. And when he's sure, he begins to leave when the old woman from the graveyard scene passes by. Now, it's very foggy and everything, and she comes upon them very quickly, and she has to swerve, just misses them, and crashes her car, and it's hanging off of this bridge. So Ray jumps into the car to save her, but she is begging him to get the suitcase. Can't let the suitcase fall into the river and all that. And he gets her out of the car, but as he reaches for it, the car falls off the bridge and into the water and starts sinking. He's inside the car now trying to get himself out. The suitcase pops open, and out come several snakes. 13, as it turns out.
Oh.
And they start attacking him and biting him.
Ooh.
Fun.
When the ambulance arrives, they're able to fish out the car, and Ray is dead, and so is the old lady. So later that night, the coroner is examining Ray's body, and he's noting all of the snake bites when suddenly Ray gets right back up and kills the coroner.
Oh.
He is clearly not the person he was before this all happened. So he then goes and retrieves his truck, and so the movie is on. There's lots of scenes of these kids getting killed in various ways that really make no sense, but are kind of fun. In Ray's auto shop, one of the girls is she's gone investigating, and he comes in, and she's like, "Oh shit, this is not what I thought." And plus, everybody knows Ray's dead, so when he shows up, they're understandably, worried. So she hides under a car that's there. Well, he lowers. It's on one of those big pneumatic jacks, and he lowers the car on her so that she's trapped. But then he sandblasts her to death.
Oh.
So now I've painted in auto shops and I've sandblasted my engine and shit like that. So I get it. But does anyone who's never sandblasted know what a sandblaster can do? I mean, it's hooked by a hose and it has kind of like a pistol end, and you point it and it can like strip the paint right off down to bare metal very quickly. But they don't show anything like that happening. He points the hose at the camera, and then you see the sand shoot out, or it's usually little glass beads. But and then you just hear her scream, and it's kind of like I get it. Does anybody who's never used one of these get what this does?
I would have assumed it was just like an air thing and not known.
It's a bad choice.
Yeah, if you're going to do something like that, that seems like a showcase potential effect.
Like strip off the skin from her face down to the bone. That'd be great. Yeah. No. This movie, like I said, has some cheap looking scenes in it. So this feels like a scene that maybe the effects were missing and they, anyway. There's some bullshit storyline going on where Eric is pissed at his dad for not loving him enough. And I have to say, this is some fucking amateur creative writing class bullshit. This is not how you write a character. It's like, really, boy. It seems almost like they turned in a script and it was 79 pages, and the studio said, "Hey, we need to bump this up to 101 pages." And the guy was like, "No problem." No problem.
Let me tell you some issues my characters have.
Also, by the way, we need 20 more pages, but we're not changing the budget one bit. And so he's like, "Well, okay, it's all character development."
Quote.
Yes. Anyway, with a little investigating, because one of their friends, this is, a group of friends having to deal with this. She is the granddaughter of the woman at the beginning. We discover that her grandmother was a Creole witch, and the suitcase held the souls of 13 evil men that her grandmother had been trying to purify. Here's where I get angry. Because Ray is possessed by the 13 evil souls now that we're in this snake, which is a really cool fucking concept.
Yeah.
That deserves a much, much better film than this. I kind of want to write it and just send it to the writer. Be like, this is, you had a great idea, but this is what you should have done.
Oh.
Anyway, there's a ridiculous scene where the kids take one of their dead friends, recently killed by Ray, and try to use his body as a voodoo doll to stop Ray. And there's a lot of fun voodoo bullshit that is probably very offensive to somebody, but not me, because I don't care about shit like that. And we have a pretty cool climax at the cemetery again, and Eden is finally able to kill Ray by hitting him so hard with his own truck that he literally explodes, which is kind of fun. She smashes him up against the big tomb, and his arms and legs are all severed and go flying. And I was like, okay, I can dig. And she then, gets out of the truck and she staggers off, and we see his dead torso pinned up against the truck and everything. And a couple of the snakes emerge from it.
Whoa.
It's like, looking for a new host. Stupid, and yet still a better movie than Venom with Tom Hardy.
All right.
I got a little bit of trivia on this. The filmmakers hoped this would be the first film in a long-running franchise. They intended to make Ray Sawyer the next iconic horror villain like Jason Voorhees. When the film bombed, plans for future sequels were scrapped.
Shocking.
That's how it works, you guys. The movie is based on a story for a video game that they had in development. And so this movie, video game, all of this tie-in was supposed to launch at the same time. And that's why the writers of this script have so much video game stuff going on.
Big like transmedia project.
Let's see. In the video game and some versions of this script, Ray Sawyer was nicknamed Mr. Jangles because of his keys. When you hear them jangling, you know he's near. So, like the static in
Silent Hill.
Foggy City. Yeah, Silent Hill. It is the last film produced by Dimension Films that was released by Disney before the label was sold to the Weinstein Company. And then finally, the final confrontation between Eden and Ray with the truck was done in reshoots after test audiences found the original ending unsatisfactory. The film originally ended with Eden exiting the mausoleum, leaving Ray sealed in the crypt, with the intent being to leave it open for future sequels. The audience said, I don't know what the audience really said, but I'm guessing the cards came back, did not like this movie very much, and the producers were like, it has to be the ending.
Yeah. That's the thing we can change. Let's change it.
So that was my movie. I gotta say, not good, but entertaining. A good way to spend 90 minutes.
It sounds pretty fun, actually. It sounds very up my alley of like bad teen horror.
Yeah, it is very much that kind of thing where, I Know What You Did Last Summer, all of those kind of movies where Dimension was just like, let's throw a cast of very attractive young people out and a monster and see what happens. But it feels like they ran out of money halfway through, and then the studio is going through whatever problems it was going through, and so it got a very limited release. And then, well, I don't know if it got a limited release because they say in there about it bombing with that $883,000. That budget, I mean, it's got to be I don't know, I'd say a $10 million movie.
Probably,
in 2005.
Yeah, I would think so.
Anyway, cemeteries, you guys.
Wow. Cemeteries, yeah.
Cemetery, yo.
That means, Vanessa, it is your pick for the next film.
Bring it on.
Yeah, so we haven't discussed this ahead, and it's a little unfortunate, Kelly, because my pick is going to be Southern Gothic / Southern Horror.
Shit.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that yours was that, and so I already came up with my idea.
Guess what, though? There's a ton of Southern Gothic horror films.
And there are incredible ones out there. So I'm really excited to explore this territory.
Yeah, I like this idea. Okay, this is where we thank everybody, as usual, for liking, sharing posts, participating in the value for value system, sending us lovely messages every once in a while to just say, hey, we really appreciate you. I like that.
Thank you.
We
appreciate you.
We do appreciate you. That's the whole value for value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're done, right? Nothing else to talk about?
I don't think so. Just thanks for being awesome, listeners.
Yeah, okay. Let's say goodbye to everybody. We're coming back 1 week. We're talking Southern Gothic. Strange Aeons Radio is artisanal quality podcasting, handcrafted with all natural ingredients, and edited to perfection by Eric Morgret. Our blistering theme song is Strange Aeons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider dropping a positive review on Apple Podcasts.
I don't know why I'm sitting here. This is not worth my emotional energy.